Welcome to this session. Thank you to everyone in the room, and thank you for everyone online. I'm Gene Hall, Vice President of Marketing and Communications for the team that is bringing to life full-stack observability for Cisco. So what is this crazy full-stack observability thing that you've seen everybody talk about? It's on 70-foot signs up and down the Las Vegas Strip. Well, in the end, the way to think about it is something that is going to make everyone's lives easier and more impactful. From an IT perspective, from an app dev perspective, from a SecOps perspective. It's also something that is incredibly important in today's world where businesses are run with and through digital experiences that are delivered through modern applications. So what it is that FSO delivers, relevant, impactful, and actionable business insights, not just technology insights. It helps break down silos between the teams that I just mentioned who are being forced to work more closely together than ever. And it helps you and your businesses assure flawless, always-on digital experiences at scale. So, I'm going to state the obvious. You know, many of you have phones in your hand. Applications are the front door to every business now. And no matter how you consume them, on a mobile device, et cetera, they're absolutely critical. And our expectations around these applications have just gone up, right? You know, for those of us who were born before iPhones, we remember kind of like the early days of these things, both from a consumer perspective and a business application perspective. But now, we actually use this to run every part of our lives, whether it's engaging with healthcare providers, engaging with public sector, and you'll hear from an awesome partner and colleague and customer in a moment who can go deep on public sector. So our bar has gone up, and in the end, that has direct impact to everybody's business in the room. So when we talk about the business impact of assuring flawless, always-on digital experiences, know that digital experience right now is a boardroom KPI. It's a boardroom KPI in terms of how these experiences bring to life the value proposition of everyone's company or organization. Obviously, compliance, risk, security, et cetera. All of these things are paramount, and they all get reported up through various committees and up to the board. So no longer is just ensuring uptime something that IT worries about, the entire business worries about it. Modern distributed applications are also complex, right? Powerful, deliver a lot that people can take advantage of. But in the end, if you think about how they're built, the tools to build these things are everywhere, and those are moving faster. You've got combinations of developers using open source and commercial products and on-prem and hybrid and cloud and multi-cloud environments. You've got cloud-native applications. In the end, though, most of you and most of everyone at this event are on the hook to make sure that all of that is working properly. So you are held accountable day to day to work with app devs and SecOps and compliance teams. You have to report up to your managers and the CIOs. Many of you are CIOs. You have to report up to the board. That is a tall task, and that's just accelerating. It's not going to slow down. The genie's out of the bottle. In a recent study that IDC just completed that we've published, over 2,000 global organizations responded, and 56% of these organizations said just for monitoring and observability, they're using over 10 solutions. 10%, so 200 of these organizations said that they're using up to 100 different tools just to get a handle as to what's happening in their environment. That's not sustainable. 60% say that the tools they have only give them a narrow aperture into what's really happening. And so you got to be able to broaden the aperture. You got to do it in a way that addresses heterogeneous environments. You got to do it in a way that actually gives you insight. And 74% of them say they struggle with data collection, interpretation, et cetera. You know, the so whatness, the stuff that's actually going to help everyone do their jobs better. So all of this, obviously, complexity, the data overload. Hopefully you saw the Anthem video in Liz's keynote. It was, you know, a humorous term, but it's true. Tool sprawl, higher TCO, friction between these teams, because everyone is really trying to do the right thing, but they have no way to really work effectively together right now. All of these things are what we are all facing at the moment. And 71% of the respondents, and many of you that I've spoken with this week, believe that having a unified observability platform and set of solutions that can actually bring together data from across heterogeneous environments, no matter where they live, and contextualize them and tie them with business impact is absolutely essential. So that's what it is that we're delivering with Cisco Full Stack Observability. That's what we're announcing this week at scale, is the ability to deliver the most optimal and secure digital experiences for your users and your applications. And we know that doing that is going to drive revenue for your business. It's going to reduce the complexity and the tool sprawl. It's going to make you safer. You can address issues in a more targeted and timely fashion. And in the end, right, it's going to make your customers and your business happier. So how is Cisco FSO helping? We allow you to observe what's happening end-to-end, no matter where your infrastructure lives, top to bottom, full stack. We help you secure effectively with business context. We help you optimize your limited resources that you have from an IT perspective so they could work on the most important things. And then, hopefully you saw in the announcement, we actually have partners developing on top of the platform already. Evolutio, Canary, Cloud Fabrics, more to come, plus what we have launched is also programmable yourself. So it is a way to address the most important use cases in your organization. And again, the most critical thing in the end, all of this is tied to business context. So to tell you a little bit more about how this works is the person whose team, and the person himself, who actually built this amazing technology. I want to welcome my friend and colleague, SVP and GM of FSO and Cisco AppDynamics, Ronak Desai. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gene. Before we get started, I have 2 teenager daughters in my house. So if I lose track of my talking track, you know what is going on. I'm sure you heard Gene today about his 5 kids. Anyway, thank you, Gene. So today we are going to just dive a little bit, double-click onto Cisco Full Stack Observability and why we are taking a platform approach. As Gene was talking about, 11 to 100 tools to monitor and deliver that best-in-class end-user experience. Think about it, how difficult it is, the complexity, you all deal with it, and the friction between the team which this causes it. We at Cisco are really wanting to build a platform in an open fashion. And the reason it is important to build it in open fashion, we'll build a lot of tools and applications on top of the platform, but there are verticals which we do not have expertise. Healthcare maybe being one of them. Maybe there are verticals like financial operations where we may not have expertise. So that's why we wanted to build this platform. First of all, take the platform approach so that we can open it up to our ecosystems, to our customers who wants to build applications on top of it, or to our partners who wants to actually build and value add into what we are delivering it. So being open, not just from an API perspective, but ability for our customers and partners to drop if they want to ingest a new telemetry, if they want to modify the UI, because they have a different procedure for operation perspective. That's why we wanted to build and take a platform approach. Extensibility, as I've been talking about, it's super critical when you want to open it up to the ecosystem. We have an 8 degree of extensibility on this platform. It's not only about modifying and making UI better, but also ability to ingest new telemetry. Also ability to create different personas, and so that they can have this view on the data which is coming in the platform. Fundamentally, if you look at it, observability is a data problem. All right? We are bringing in the data from network, security, and application, and bringing it all together. And then you have different ops teams. Our goal at Cisco is not to force change organization structure in your organization, but allow and build the tools so that you have better collaboration across those ops teams, right? And when we talk about data, scalability is a huge thing for it. So we build this platform in a horizontal scalable way so that not only it's cost effective so that we can pass those savings back to you, but you are also able to bring all kind of telemetry and come up with some new interesting use case. At Cisco, in the last couple of years, we have changed the way we come across and drive the businesses and drive some of the use cases with you. We do not want to be selling you the bag of tools. We really want to kind of give you that holistic experience which you all expect us to do it. Jonathan had a nice analogy this morning about getting the swatch and you stitching it together for a cozy blanket. So again, being flexible in terms of how you consume and how you explore those use cases is very, very fundamental. So just kind of double-clicking on what it means from a platform perspective. I spoke about a little bit about open. How many of you are familiar with OpenTelemetry? It's the second most popular project in CNCF. First one is the Kubernetes. And you'll be surprised to know we are number one. Cisco is a number one contributor when it comes to OpenTelemetry. So we pivoted really hard and made sure that we build the platform around OpenTelemetry. I'm sure you've heard about agent sprawls, right? There's an agent for security, there's an agent for WebEx, there's an agent for ThousandEyes, there's an agent for App Dynamics, and I'm sure that you have other agents in your systems, right? So really trying to go and leverage OpenTelemetry so that you can at least get a lot of value out of the box without installing 10 agents, which are, by the way, consuming some CPU cycles as well on your machines. So that's the reason we kind of pivoted around OpenTelemetry. For an observability platform, if we didn't cover the 4 aspects of it, it wouldn't be complete. It's metrics, events, logs, and traces. A lot of vendors out there which do that. The way we differentiate ourselves is not only we can take the MELT data, fondly called MELT, metrics, events, logs, and traces, from one domain, but we take it across all the domains which we are ingesting it. And ability to cross-correlate out of the box across those domains is sort of built into the platform. Things which are built into the platform are things like ML. So your application which are getting built on top of it don't have to write dynamic baseline, don't have to write the algorithms to kind of figure out what are the anomalies, set up the dynamic rules. Those capabilities are out of the box supported. Having said that, a platform without application would not be too useful, right? And I'm sure there are a lot of people who have built platforms around it. We believe that opening up to the ecosystem, considering the segment we are playing into it, is extremely critical. So the application which you see it in the blue are the one which we are building it ourselves at Cisco. Of course, we are doing a heavy investment in nurturing and building things around it so that our partners can expand it, but we are also building a lot of applications. Because early days of platform, we absolutely want to make sure that we build that ecosystem so that we can showcase it to you all, get this adopted, get our partner excited. Having said that, I'm very happy to announce that we have 3 partners who have already built the application on top of it. And they are actually showing it on the World of Solutions. So if you have not got a chance, please do go visit them. As well as we have a fantastic set of demos available on World of Solutions. One of the applications which I wanted to kind of do a double click on it is the cloud native application observability. As Gene was talking about, your application landscape is extremely complicated, especially when it comes to modern applications, which are built around Kubernetes. It's very distributed, right? Think about three tiers application for some of you who have a lot of gray hair like me. From there, we're going to this heavy distributed architecture, which is spread around network. And in that environment, getting the visibility into what is going on is where we are trying to attack. If I just said cloud cost, a lot of you will start to pay attention here. Cloud cost for your modern applications or any application deployed on the public cloud is a big concern for your CIOs. Getting insight in terms of where you are spending your money is very, very important to understand the cost distribution. Having said that, it's not too useful to get the visibility, but it would be great if we can give you the insights in terms of how can you optimize those application resources which you allocated, whether it's a vCPUs or memory or whatever have you. So we, of course, do that. But then ability to take action on those recommendations and actually implement those in production environment is super powerful. And this is what, when we are talking about cost insight and application resource optimization, we're talking about it. To do a double click before I go there, when you talk about cloud and modern application monitoring, every public cloud vendor has a ton of applications on services which your application teams are using it. So getting the deep visibility of those services which your applications are using is important. out of the box. So as you can see, we have a rich ecosystem which we have done it across 3 major public cloud, and we're bringing this visibility natively available in cloud-native application observability. But as I was talking about cost insight, to really double-click on it and really show you this in action rather than bore you with PowerPoint, I would like to invite Renato, Director of Engineering, working in our full stack observability group. Renato, welcome.
Good to see you.
All right.
All right, let's unlock this. Okay.
All right, so what are we going to show, Renato, today?
Okay, so as you can see here, Ronak was talking about the platform and the capabilities that we built to support full stack observability. To prove the power of the platform, the first application we built, it's cloud native application observability. CNOW, as the friends and family know it, will basically be capable of covering multiple domains. So to show the power of bringing the telemetry from multiple sources, correlating them, making them available for different personas, we created CNOW with multiple kind of modules. So when you look at here, you can see CNOW is capable of doing APM or Kubernetes monitoring, infrastructure. So those modules were designed in a way that can not only serve the persona within that domain, but also bringing insights from different domains so those personas can be aware of their surroundings. So let's start by infrastructure, right? You're talking about hosts, EC2, costs. Let's go there.
And this is the cross-melt, right? This is the associating and kind of correlating across different domains.
Yes. Basically, one of the powers of the platform is when we bring the melt telemetry, it always is a cross-melt. Even our query language, it's quite powerful. When you query, you can fetch multiple types of melt signals within one single query. You can say, bring me the metric CPU utilization plus the logs for an entity. So I can do that. So let's go and take a look at hosts. This is a typical way that we represent the UI for a persona. In this case, we're talking about someone looking at infrastructure. To the left, you can see that I have not only the information about my hosts in the middle, but on the left, I see a map that we designed to help people understand what else was related to it.
Right.
So now I know these are all the hosts that I see, and I can see that on the list view, but we also produce in-context visualizations for those people. So I can come here and say, I don't want to see in the list view, I want to see in the dashboard view. So, and the context is maintained. So I'm still looking at the same list, but now I'm giving an overlay.
Yeah, and filtered it to the relevant resources which are
correct.
Of interest.
Yes.
That's powerful.
So now when I'm here, I'm looking at this and saying, well, I'm actually focusing on high CPU cost, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I see that there is this top guy here. Let's just look at the one that's the highest cost, this guy here. So I'm going to go and click on it. Now I'm going back from the big picture to the narrow, right there, and telling you, here is this host. And as we can see here, for the last 4 hours, this host cost us $137.32.
Wow.
Okay, not too bad. But the reality is, from that amount of money, you are only consuming $41.75.
Wow.
Idle cost, $95.75.
Wow.
That's what you're throwing away?
That's 70%.
Do you want to save some money?
So exactly, I think I would love to figure it out. What can we do and what can we offer out of the box to figure it out what can be done on this particular entity?
Sure. So we're talking about cloud native applications, right? That server just so happens that it's a node in a cluster. So if I scroll here, I can see the cluster that is related to, right? And I can go to the cluster, or I can go here. I'm going to go into the cluster. So this is the cluster now. You see the number is smaller, but the cluster now has the workloads. So if I go here, I can click on a workload that is in red. At the top, right away, you can see ARO. So you got cost insights. We see that that workload is $77.49.
Yeah.
And at the top, of course, our profiler is looking at it and say, hey, there's an excessive cost thing here. And actually, if I look to the analysis details, according to our profiler, we can provide improvement in cost efficiency for this guy if we optimize it.
Yeah, let's try it, see if we can optimize and see how much saving is.
Let's give it a try. So when I click in optimize workload, now we have the ability to check the prerequisites. I go next. In here, I have the freedom to configure. So I can put guardrails on it. I can say, look, I am cost-centric, or I want boost performance and don't care much about the cost. Well, in our case here, we care about the cost, so I'm not going to boost performance. I'm going to go
Yes.
for the costing, right? So I can put guardrails on it, and I'll say start optimization. When I do so, what happens is you see on the top, it's in discovery mode. This is going to take a while. It takes about 30 hours. Why? Because our ML models are going to start running possibilities and canary workloads to verify, is this matching the profile that we
Right.
designed or not?
Yeah.
And it will go for a while until it finds it. So this, I'm going to let this run, and I'm just going to go back to the workloads.
Yeah.
Before we started, I kicked off a few of them, and I'll show you this one that we finished.
Okay, all right.
So if you can see, it's finished optimizing, and it has recommendations for you. So
Yeah.
you can go and click recommendations.
Yep.
And then from this perspective, we provide you through 3 aspects every time. You have the optimal, which is going to be balancing out the cost and
Right.
performance. And you can focus on either better performance or lower cost. With these capabilities, we have services that could take that recommendation and continuously improve for you, so you never have
On an
to touch it
ongoing basis.
on an ongoing basis. But we decided to start with some restrictions. A lot of our customers say, hey, we don't want that thing taking over.
Yeah.
We want our SRE team to take the data and apply it. So they can take these recommendations now, go make their changes, and they will observe the savings that we want.
Yeah, that's awesome. But so we figured it out that there's an opportunity with this workload. But you know what? When applications are built in any organization, there are a lot of teams involved in it, right? So I really would like to see if I can action certain teams if they have a overutilization of resources. Can tool help here?
Yes, that's actually a problem that we suffer ourselves. Like my teams basically today are responsible to watch, because we have costing sites,
Yeah.
they now can watch what they are responsible for. The tricky part is that depending on the organization, they may be bound by a namespace, or they may be bound by tags. And that goes across different clusters, different regions.
Yeah,
And we want to
yeah.
be able to consolidate that for the team to know, no matter where their services are going, I can see my cost. So I'm going to go back to observe here. And if you scroll down, Costing Sites provides you a Teams view. So when I land here, I can see that Team Tino actually, I'm going to click here and see what is Tino doing. Like total
Yeah.
cost, $559. If I click on it, now I know that Team Tino is actually deploying things over all these clusters. And actually, they own 2 namespaces. They own AppDynamics and Default. So no matter where those namespaces are used, those belong to Tino. We know and we track him over time.
So now Team Tino knows exactly what to do and the recommendation.
Correct.
This is super powerful. I'm sure the CIOs out there will be waiting to get their hands onto this tool. Congratulations, Leonardo, to you and your team to build this amazing capability for our
Thank you
customers.
so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Ronald. Thank you for having me.
So you saw how powerful it could be to get the insights, but then getting the recommendations. And when we talk about recommendation and implementing those, we are still maintaining the SLA, which your applications team and your end users are expecting, right? So we're measuring latency jitter of the transaction which are coming into the applications, making sure that you're still meeting your targets and optimizing the resources. Extremely powerful, out-of-the-box capability. So the next one which I wanted to kind of talk about was the digital experience monitoring. If you look at the digital experience monitoring, we are defining that as it is experienced by your end users who are using your applications, all the way from a mobile or a browser, from the plane or from a Starbucks nearby. They're accessing their applications inside your data centers. And there's a big internet in the middle. And those applications may be accessing the SaaS API to finish the payment transaction, for example. If you look at it, each of this domain and segment, today, most of the teams have different tools. There is network intelligence from a Thousand Eyes perspective, which monitors your ISP network, your cloud infrastructure. There is an end user monitoring, which is monitoring your browser and your mobile applications. And then there is an application performance monitoring, which is in your data centers. Now, when you have really the end user experiencing performance issues, it is really difficult to correlate all those things together. And if you have to do it today, it takes hours and probably a lot of war room with a whole bunch of people in it trying to figure it out where the problem is so that actually you can quickly fix it. First of all, triage it, fix it, and get it back in the service for your end users. But what if we were able to bring all the telemetry from all these segments in a platform and deliver that end-to-end capability for you to narrow it down and potentially fix the problem right there? You'll be able to do that in order of minutes. And these are not just the stats I'm putting in together. These are some of our customers who have sort of validated the notion when we bring it in end user experience, internet insights, APM functions, and some of the security aspect of it. That's how it's powerful it is. Because at the end of the day, in this age, every end user who is accessing your application, we have very little patience. If application is not responding, we're going to switch the tab and move to something else. So it becomes extremely critical. The second topic which I wanted to talk to you, again, this is another application which is built on top of the platform. And when we talk about building application on the top of the platform, it's not a different UI. It is part of the same console, right? We're trying to solve the tool sprawl problem. We're not trying to create more tools for you, right? So consolidating that telemetry and giving you the insight for your use case is what we are trying to drive it here. Business risk observability is really a simple definition which basically takes the business context. And I think this is super critical when we talk about full stack observability. Anything and everything what we do, we want to make sure that we are tying it together with the business context, because that is what is going to help you have that conversation with your business partners between ops teams and the developers. So take the business context, take the vulnerability insights which we have it, threat intelligence we have it because of the application context, put those two together, and we come up with a single score called business risk score. And that score helps you sort of prioritize what you should take action on it. So what we did was we looked at 4 different products which Cisco offers. There is AppDynamics, there is Panoptica, there's Canna Security, and then there's Talos. We basically bring the telemetry from all of this together, and then you try to come up with that business risk score. But just to sort of illustrate how powerful this capability is, let's just take a few examples here. Most of you must be familiar with the CVSS score, which is a static score, which basically identifies the vulnerability and says you have a 9.5 score, which is very critical, which means you absolutely need to fix it. But Canna is a tool, and they come up with a score where they are monitoring 18 different feeds across the internet, including monitoring the hackers' chat sessions, looking at is there an easy toolkit available to exploit that vulnerability, and comes up with a score. We look at those 2 scores, and we also look at application inside we have it, because we are sitting in the runtime of the application. We, in fact, can see if your application is getting attacked because of Log4j. And you can absolutely mask off those transactions if you wanted to. But if you look at it and just focus on the middle tier here, CVSS score, which is very high. Log4j, remember the Christmas of 2021. Irrespective of how critical that vulnerability is from an exploiting perspective, everybody had a mandate saying you must fix it. But what if you knew that actually that vulnerability exists in a tier of application which has no access to the data? It is behind a firewall. It is not a public facing. You could actually have given Christmas off to your developer team or allow them to innovate and add more capability. So that's great. But then if you flip around the use case where CVSS score says, you know what, it's low, and I can assure you, most of the development team will ignore that. But in reality, that is the easiest one to exploit because there are ready-made toolkits available. And it may be existing in an application stack which has access to all kind of sensitive data. And this is a big blind spot for our app and dev teams. Bringing this telemetry, we can help you prioritize so that actually you can really free your developers to do what they do the best. So I know there was a lot of talk yesterday, if you attended on a keynote, on terms of what's happening around generative AI and the large language models. So of course, we would want to make sure that we put the natural language interface in terms of the tools which we are offering it. I think it's going to increase the efficiency of our ops teams. And we also think that it can help you sort of bring different tools, not only built by Cisco, but other companies as well, where you have a single interface to interact with your whole set of tools around, right? So we're going to work on that, and we're going to build it. You should hear from us very soon on that. But Your application teams, and as you can see, the rapid advance in terms of adopting this, which is happening around the industry, your application teams are actually using those large language models. They are using either your A model for the OpenAI, or a B model, or Curie, or DaVinci model. So getting the insight in terms of what is happening around OpenAI usage or large language model usage from your applications, we have built this dashboard out of the box, which will tell you basically for each type of a model, what's the API completion rate? How much is the cost? How much tokens are you burning it, et cetera. So this is going to be available in July. So stay tuned to it. No new agent needed. Just click on your SaaS environment, and you should be able to see it. But with that, I actually wanted to make it real. And I wanted to invite lead program manager from State of Iowa, Indiana, Brad, and Gene back up on the stage. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Brad. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ronak.
All right.
Hi, Brad.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good.
How do you like the show?
I'm loving it. It's overwhelming, but it's also very insightful and just tons of information. You guys are incredible.
That's
what you've
awesome.
done
Well, it's the crowd that makes it
here. Yeah,
special.
Absolutely.
So, so what we thought we would do is talk a little bit about your journey towards full stack observability, the steps you took, kind of maybe to paint a picture when you first stepped into your role. I'm going to, speak kindly. I'm sure you stepped into an environment and everything was working perfectly, right?
It was.
Yeah. So like the past, couple of years, it's just been you've been able to
Gravy.
work on your golf game,
Yep.
right?
Gravy.
Okay. Why don't you share a little bit about like when you first came in, what the nature of what you were facing was like?
When I first came to the state, I was hired on in a program for application migrations and things of that nature. So being around the state for 6 or 7 years, I started to understand the apps, the way they would work, how they were instrumented, especially on-prem. Our cloud smart strategy hadn't began yet. So understanding that, the CTO came to me, Dave Fox, and wanted to get into the observability business because we have to be able to deliver these things to the constituents 24/7, 365 now. We're no longer a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday business. We are a state of 90-plus agencies, which you can think of those as businesses. And in those agencies, there's multiple business units, multiple apps that are delivered to the constituents. So when I came on board, that was the broad, big picture. And then since then, in the last 2 years especially, the journey began about 4 years ago with App Dynamics. Now with FSO, the last 2 years, I have brought on over 125 applications. And the journey continues.
That's
and
awesome.
With everything that Ronak and his team has done, which is amazing, by the way. Thank you very much. I look very forward to the next 6 months or so.
That's great.
President.
Don't give him a big head.
Nah.
It's all the team, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
so I think it's really important to understand. I mean, you mentioned all these different agencies and applications. I think in the end, as we were saying at the beginning, like expectations, because we all as people, and we're all citizens of something, right? Our expectations have gone through the roof. But what I thought was interesting is that State of Indiana really had has a very focused set of initiatives on modernizing experiences, right? But that can be tricky. Would you mind sharing a little bit about, what are the peaks? Like, what do people expect? What are the moments in time where there's like peaks in demand where you kind of have that one moment to make them happy as not only citizens, but your neighbors who know where you live?
So speaking towards like the Black Friday type of situation,
Yeah,
things of
exactly,
that nature?
exactly.
Well, in our environment, you would have many of those. Coming up next month would be in the licensing business. We handle over 400 licensing types at the state of Indiana. The nursing licenses are coming up. Very high demand. Those licenses also transfer to other states. So as you can imagine, that's a very busy time. Most recently, tax season was here, Department of Revenue. So we had to process those taxes very quickly. People had to be able to get on portals to pay taxes. Businesses had to be able to do business with the state of Indiana through these applications. BMV, the motor vehicles, you have to get on to, or be able to get on to do your registrations, things of that nature. Plus there are 100 plus branches that have to be operational for people to be able to walk into to do business. End of month is always super busy for them. Right now, most currently, the Department of Education, from now until about September, in their licensing, it's called Elvis of all things, their licensing verification system, in Vegas, that's fun. Anyway, it's a very busy time right now because admins and teachers are taking new positions within different school systems. So those have to come in the front door. I have this license, I have these qualifications. They get processed in the back door by the business unit. So it's a very busy
So
time for them.
there's plenty of moments in time,
Very,
and
a
people's
lot.
expectations.
And those are just a
are-
few examples.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, no, man, that must be a challenging
Mm-hmm.
environment to manage it. Like, what are, like, can you educate all of us here to say, like, what are the tools you use it, and like, what does that transform inside your organization from kind of bringing things together? I know you've been a very, very important and customer with us on AppDynamics generally, but now with full stack observability, if you can kind of just give a little bit of insight in terms of how your journey has been.
Dave Fox, again, our CTO, through his vision, he tasked me several weeks ago, a couple months ago, to go out to all the different departments within IoT, security, network, operations, server admins, Linux, Windows, all of the things that you can think of, tier 3 help desk, things of that nature. What tools are we using? What are they using them for? Who's using them? So I created a RACI on all those. Came up with, I believe, over 135 tools within our.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of them crossed each other. One team didn't know what the other team was using or anything. Now that we have these platforms, the full stack tools, a very good example in the last several weeks, the security team is coming to me now. Yeah. We are enabling not only the agencies, our partners, to use the systems, the platforms, but we're enabling inside of our organization, security in particular, the server ad. They come to us now because they're enabled to use these things to solve problems.
Yeah, no, I think this is actually very interesting. And I think we were talking about the other day, it's about those human connections and sort of building that collaboration across the teams. I mean, if you may want to kind of talk about it from a security team and your ops team, like how did your journey begin? Because we always kind of see, oh, nobody wants to deal with security team, right? Yeah. But it seems like talking to you, like.
But we love security teams.
Yes, we do.
We love them.
We love them, of course, we love them. But kind of give us a little bit of insight, and I think what you were sharing the other day.
Well, like you said, it's all relationships. And when I first got to the state of Indiana, and nothing against anybody, and I don't want to say, but somebody from one department didn't know what the team in another, what they were doing. So I'm running around making friends, saying, did you know we did this? And so that's what took us into this type of full stack view, where now I can work with the security team and say, hey, maybe a CrowdStrike is causing us some issues on these pieces of hardware. If they come to me now and say, what's AppDynamics, what's ThousandEyes showing us, what does the correlation of the data look like? And as you said, the melt data, they are using that also to do forensics on and things of that nature. So this stuff is all in one area now that we can extract and correlate against. But they come to us now.
Have you found having that not only ability to collaborate the right way, but even yourself and your team having that data, has that saved you time? Has it helped you be more focused?
Absolutely. Like you said, what would take hours before, and just some simple examples, most recently, like with DOE and the Elvis application, and all the licensing thing. The vendor, again, we enable the partners to work with us through the FSO platforms. They're using the tools to help keep that application up and running for not only the end users, but the business unit inside that has to process the licensing. So,
yeah, I mean, it seems like, I think, Gene, you were talking about organizations having between 10 to 100 tools.
Yeah.
You are like in the top 10%, the 35. Like our goal, right, is not to build one tool which conquers all the problems, but really trying to reduce that, right, with full stack. And looks like you're sort of on that journey. You've been sort of bringing things together to really allow that collaboration between the network team and security team and the application teams, right? And I think it's super powerful to really handle. I think you talked about some war room. I think just to make it real, kind of give me an example about some of the war rooms you used to have run before you started adopting full stack.
When we have had an outage or an application experienced issues in the past, I've been on phone calls where there's 60 plus people on those calls. And if you think within an organization, 60 plus people and the salaries that are, it's a very expensive phone call. I have been in situations now where either the applications, the problems are solved before any escalation call is brought up, or within minutes, with somebody reaching out to me or me proactively reaching out, hey, we're getting alerting on this, can you take a look? Our network team, for example, could you take a look? Oh, this is going on. They get it fixed before anybody knows what's going on.
So it's really from reactive to proactive to
Absolutely.
predictive.
The mean time to resolution has lowered quite a bit.
You know what's interesting? So on the tool sprawl thing, for those, I'm going to shamelessly plug our friends in Security Business Group and the security team, but I know that there's a lot of primary research that they deliver as well. And tool sprawl lives in all these domains, and that's a critical thing to keep in mind. So you're facing it from an I&O perspective. SecOps clearly has tons of tools they use. They're drowning in noise and what have you. And then app devs, we love them, right? But in the end, app devs are notorious. They're going to use any tool, any module, et cetera, in front of them to help them get their application out quickly. So the tool sprawl thing, when we reflect the numbers from IDC, that is literally just monitoring and observability. That's not the ecosystem. And so I think to your point, right, when you bring all of that together and say these teams have to work together, and they've never really worked together before, like you say, you had an opportunity to say, we don't have a blueprint, hey, I'm going to give you some insights, now we have a blueprint, right?
It's so powerful to hear from you on terms of your journey and how you sort of leverage this thing to create that collaboration. We'd love to have you over and over again. You've been such a fantastic customers and participants, and like your insights are so valuable to our customers here. So thank you for joining us here. And we're going to, I don't know whether we have a time for a few questions here for any, if you have any of questions here. Otherwise, we are at the end of the sessions here.
We could do a quick close.
Okay, there's a question up
awesome.
there.
Just a question around the timing involved with, beginning an initiative to assess this, the kind of a committee, the consensus-led evaluation, the searching for solutions, the whether it's consolidating tools or reducing licensing across the board. Can you give us an overview of the time involved internally with from beginning to end of where you started and how long did it take you to achieve where you are today? And any kind of measurable metrics or business value that you received out of this initiative?
That's to me, right? Like I said, I started my journey about 4 years with AppDynamics in Dave Fox, our CTO. That was a quick POC just to see what it could do for us. It proved value very quickly. During COVID at the very beginning, before we really got started, the workforce development application that Workforce uses went down because we were getting something like 35,000 hits an hour, something of that nature, to that application for unemployment requests. We used AppDynamics to find the code, the Java code that was causing us issues, quickly get that to the developers, and within, I can't remember the time frame, it was hours or a few days, that was corrected, and we were able to serve those requests. So between 4 and 3 years ago, that's when that happened, the COVID time period. Then we saw the value. We started a POC process. I was tasked, when we started our EA agreements and things of that nature, my very first goal, of course I have a list of goals from the CTO's office, to get 50 applications on. Well, I like to do better than that, so I put over 100 applications on that first year. I did have the full support of the CTO's office and all of the departments, the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, and of course Tracy Barnes, our CIO, had their full support, so that made that very easy for me to get that job done, so kudos to them. What I have provided every month since then over the past 2 years is key metrics and KPIs to the CIO and CTO to be able to take to the governor's office and lieutenant governor's office based on the scorecard within AppDynamics that grades the applications, and they can go over to the governor's office and say, we may need some help, the top 10, worst 10 type of thing, green, yellow, red light. We may need help in this area with a certain agency or this area with a certain. So that's what the value is in it, other than behind the scenes, me helping the agencies keep the applications healthy. That is the key business value that we're getting out of it. Now, with the business risk scores, I'm going to marry that now, working with the development teams, with the KPIs that I'm getting out of the metrics, because if the application's performing great and the users can get into it, but the business risk score is very high, we have to take that into consideration now. So that's the next 6 months what my goal is.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Well,
Gene?
awesome. Well,
Hello.
thank you, everyone. Thank you, Brad. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Ronak.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you everyone here. Thank you everyone online. So to learn more, stay plugged into what we're doing. We're moving quickly with FSO. More applications to come. Check out Cisco.com and the full FSO story. And then for those in the room, make sure if you haven't been to the show floor, go to the show floor, see demos and talk to our experts. And I appreciate everyone's time. Hopefully you see that FSO can really enable you more effectively and reduce tool sprawl, reduce complexity, increase quality and delivery of digital experiences, and pretty much just make you happier. So thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, Gene. Gene, you're going to take